Number 1, giving up smoking. Giving up smoking was first thing that I've done that led to the cascade of changes in my life. I realized that I'm capable of anything because that was one of the things in my mind that I thought that I would never be able to do. My wife incentivized me by telling me that, listen, you're going to have to choose. You can be a happy smoker and be single, or you can give up and be with me. So I've made my decision, gave up smoking. Ultimately, I've succeeded. And when that happened, I realized that I'm capable of anything because that was one of the things in my mind that I thought that I would never be able to do. And that gave me strength to move on to another challenges in my life and succeed in many of them. Number 2, daily reading.
Reading every day for my own pleasure because I wanted to, not because I had to. It enhanced my education. I left school quite young, but I feel like I managed to supplement my education in a huge way from reading books. And I still benefit from that, and I still love to do that. It's been a thing that's really helped me.
When you were 17, you didn't have access to things like, YouTube, whereas these days people can learn from watching videos, which is probably easier way of processing. One of the main reasons why so many people are not keen on reading these days, because it's quite challenging. But for me, this is a reason why I want to read, is because I want to exercise my brain. I use this as a daily exercise. So I'll read every single morning for at least half an hour, not only to practice and do the brain workout, but also to learn new things, improving our memory, improving our concentration and focus. And it's great in general. Number 3, daily exercise. Daily exercise, it's something that propelled me in my life, tremendously. It helped not only with my self-image when it comes to my body, but it also improved the way I look at the world. When I was overweight, I didn't have that, energy. I wasn't a walking firecracker, whereas now it's completely different. Everyone should invest at least a half an hour every single day, or if not every single day, at least 5 days a week in exercise. And trust me when I say this, it's going to make a huge impact on your life in general. The changes are not going to happen overnight, but ultimately, you will be so grateful that you've started.
You described to me before that this is a must for you. It's part of who you are.
Like you said, this is part of my identity. But this is not the way I've always been. So everyone who's looking at me right now is like, oh, this is who you are. You've been training so long. It's part of your identity now. But one time it wasn't. One time I had to force myself to do it every single day. So it's not like it was part of my identity and that's why I do this every day. I was doing it every day, and ultimately it became part of who I am. That's why so many people don't bother to even start exercise, because they look at people who are fit and healthy and exercising all the time, and they think, oh, they're just naturals, they're born like that. So no, this is not something that comes natural. This is something that's a result of hard work. And when people hear hard work, no, it's not for me, hard work, it's not. You come to the point of your life that you actually start enjoying it. And if you don't have that, you actually miss it. Number 4, request feedback.
People will say negative things to you, and it's more just what happens to you in the course of life. You can get some benefit from those, but requesting feedback is an action you can take. And that's something I've had to develop. But I love doing it because I see the value in it and I choose to do it. Whereas sometimes in life it feels like this is something that's forced on you.
No, I agree, and I'm the same. And in fact, I got into habit of doing this, after I came over to this country 15 years ago. I actually asked people to correct me when I spoke or when I misspoke in order to learn from that. Oftentimes people thought that, we just didn't want to say it because, it's not polite. But that's exactly what I've been looking for. So I think that could be a great example of that. And ultimately, if you want to become a better version of yourself, you have to know about these things that sometimes are hidden from your conscious mind. Number 5, regulate your sleep. I started going to bed at 7:30 about 3 years ago. The reason why I decided that I want to do it is that it was really important for me to wake up really early in the morning so I could do my reading, I could do my exercise, and do other things that I love, but I never had the time to do throughout the day. After a long day at work, very often you're completely drained and you just don't have a mental capacity to do all these things that you love. And even if you can't do them, you're not going to do them in an effective way. So I've realized that the only way that I can change it is by going to sleep earlier. And by doing so, I would wake up 5 o'clock in the morning and I would wake up rested.
When I saw the model that you're presenting and that you're living, it made a lot of sense to me. But sometimes you've got to see something. And so I'm faced with the challenge, well, nobody's forcing you to get up. There's a gain to be had. It's in your interests to get up. Not because you have to, but because it's going to reach your goals.
Not only that, I think it helps me to optimize my entire day. Number 6, initiate change to your mindset.
Stepping outside my usual routine. I lived in a city. If things were getting a little bit on top of me and my perspective of my circumstances was beginning to get a bit negative and a bit grim and feeling a bit trapped, I would take minimal stuff with me. I had a bivvy bag, kind of like a waterproof bag which my sleeping bag goes into. And I would take myself outside of town, not far, 2 miles away from the town. I could see the town and I would sleep out overnight. I'd probably go late, very little preparation, didn't need to take much food with me or anything like that. No fires, nothing like that. I'd get up early in the morning and I'd cycle back into town. And I'd made such a difference, not just on that day, but on the following days as well, just having that time outside my usual routine.
It makes sense. We are part of nature, aren't we? So sleeping outside, it would probably help to reshift the way we think. And I do a similar thing. Not necessarily, I'm not getting to that extreme. For me, it's spending at least 10 to 15 minutes of listening to the positive messages first thing in the morning. Yeah, I think that your example, it seems really, really difficult to implement for some people who are living in the big cities. But listening to positive messages, first thing after you waking up in the morning, first 10 minutes after you open your eyes, rather than focusing and living in the past, try to think about, the positive things that are possible in your future. And as long as you can live being defined by your future, then everything in your life will change and will have a huge impact, on your everyday. Number 7, cutting off dead wood for your greater good.
To cut out your own eye or to cut off your own hand. Sometimes maybe it comes to a point in life where it is necessary. There's things that we do that destroy us so much that it's in our best long-term interests to suffer the pain of addressing and taking extreme action to do something about those. There was a point in my life where computers were what I did all the time, 9 in the morning till 9 at night, and also for enjoyment as well. It was the time when computer games had went online. And I'm not necessarily taking a swing at that. It's just for me, it became a really destructive aspect. So what will be destructive in your life or what will be destroying you may differ from person to person. I had to cut that off and it was really difficult because it did feel like losing a hand. So what did I do? I stopped the internet to my house. Ultimately, it made a massive difference in my life. So wherever that is for any individual, sometimes there comes a point where it's beneficial in the long term. Sometimes it's forced upon you, but sometimes it's better for you to make that choice.
Oftentimes we're being presented with this term moderation. Everything in moderation is good for you. For most of us, moderation is not an option. You have to take a pick. You have to decide. You're not going to be cutting off just a couple of fingers. You're going to have to cut out the whole arm. And that's what happened to me when it comes to drinking alcohol. I never got to the point that I was getting drunk or that was becoming a huge problem. But I could see how this could lead to a potential big problems if I was to continue doing this on a regular basis. Sometimes you do have to decide what could be extremely detrimental for your future, and you just have to make a tough decision of stopping it altogether.